The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Indeed, all of us are here for an hour. The guy who's not pictured, co-host Matt Nicholson, will only be with us for hour one. We'll talk about that here in a moment. So that means we're going to jump around a little bit because we want to get to some things. We're going to begin with our recap and our schedule for the week. After that, what normally happens at varying points throughout the show is all going to happen in hour one. Soapbox time. Both Matt and I have bones to pick when it comes to NASCAR and Formula One. We're going to be dealing with both of those in hour one, not to be missed. Rest of the show, silly season, beginning to work itself out just a little bit. We'll talk about that when it comes to NASCAR and Formula E specifically, but we'll get into some other topics as well. As noted, not going to quite be straightforward and linear like you're used to. We're going to get into our soapbox time first, and we'll get into the rest of the news. So strap in. Going to get a little bit bumpy, but it's going to be a fun ride on this edition of the Championship Racing Network. Going green next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Indeed we are. I'm Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, my co-host, who is now pictured if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. And producer John in the building as well. So let's see what wall we can get ourselves into here. Not that busy a weekend last weekend as far as on-track action.
Yeah, not really.
But, man, what happened? We're going to have to talk about that. 7 cautions slowing down the Xfinity Series race last Saturday in Michigan. The final one came out on lap number 112 of 125. On the restart, Josh Berry got to battling with John Hunter Nemechek. 7 laps left. Nemechek was able to pull away in those 7 laps, gapped Berry at the checkers by 1.5 seconds. Berry did finish second, trailed by Brandon Jones, Moonlighter Ty Gibbs in the top 4. The rest of your top 10, Sam Mayer, Riley Earps, Moonlighter Ross Chastain, Parker Kligerman, Parker Retzlaff, and Jeb Burton. With now his 5th win on the year, it was also a landmark for Joe Gibbs Racing that we'll detail later on in the show. He claims the 1 seed, again, all by himself. 5 wins to 4 wins for Austin Hill. Cole Custer's got 2 single wins for Justin Allgaier, Chandler, Sammy Smith, and Jeb Burton. In on points are Josh Berry, Daniel Hemrick, Riley Earps, and Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed is sitting 18 points to the good over Parker Kligerman for that final spot. Parker Kligerman's been hot. Sheldon Creed, not. So not a comfortable 18-point gap at all.
Nope. Not at all.
Do you see it happening? What do you see here? What do you think?
Kligerman's going to pass him.
Okay. That cold, huh?
Yep.
All right.
Kligerman will pass him.
IndyCar was up next. They ran the Music City Grand Prix out in Nashville, up in Nashville, over in Nashville, depending on where you are. For us, up. The winner admitted that between speed and strategy, he was able to start the race 8th and still win. Kyle Kirkwood said in Victory Lane, quote, "I've got to give it up to the 27 crew. Auto Nation, Andretti, Honda. They played everything in my favor. To be honest, they gave me all the tools that I needed, cycled me to the front on strategy, and we just made really smart decisions, hit all of our marks. Just a solid day." You can do that kind of a day right there, you got a really good chance of winning.
That you do.
Pole winner Scott McLaughlin did try to make it interesting off the final restart. Charged to close the gap as the laps wound down, but he ran out of laps, settled for second. Alex Palou was third, trailed by Joseph Newgarden, Scott Dixon, Romain Grosjean, Marcus Ericsson, Pato O'Ward, Christian Lundgaard, Will Power. Palou didn't have a great day, but he did have a better one than Joseph Newgarden did, and that gap, which was down to 80 before the race, back up slightly to 84, 513 to 429. Then you got Scott Dixon in third, 387, 371 for Scott McLaughlin, and Marcus Ericsson in at 357. So the battle is for first and second, and then there's a secondary battle that regards third, fourth, fifth, and so on. Cup Series was able to get going in Michigan, but it was not to be finished without waiting a day for the rain to finish up first, and even then, really wasn't any guarantee. After rain interrupted a little bit again on Monday, things got serious. Looked like it might be just a Toyota kind of race, and then kind of turned quickly into a Roush Fenway Keselowski kind of race. Chris Buescher caught past Martin Truex Jr., producer John's driver, and seemed to look pretty comfortable out front, but Truex was able to rally, got up onto the tail of Buescher. Buescher gunned his car off of turn 4 on the final lap. Truex wasn't able to keep it down there, and Buescher claims back-to-back wins, bests Truex by a little over a tenth of a second. Denny Hamlin was third, trailed by Brad Keselowski, then Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain. Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, and Eric Jones completed the top 10. William Byron continues to lead the playoff seeds with 4 wins. Got 3 wins for Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. Then 2-time winners are Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson, along now with Chris Buescher. Single-time winners are Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And that leads us to the points situation where 4 drivers are in. And considering the fact that we don't have that many races left, we're going to start paying real good attention to the points. Kevin Harvick is 180 points to the good, so not really a problem there. Brad Keselowski, 168 over cutoff. Not really a problem there.
Safe.
Bubba Wallace is 58 over. Not the most comfortable, but 58 is not exactly what I would call the hottest of seats either.
He's safe.
Ty Gibbs is up now into the top 16. He vaulted over Michael McDowell, but he's nowhere near comfortable. He's only got 3 points up on Michael McDowell. Daniel Suarez is 5 behind Gibbs. A.J. Allmendinger, 24 under.
Ding, ding, ding.
And
ding.
Alex Bowman, 44 under.
There's your next one in right there.
And keep in mind what he's pointing out right now. we're at a road course this weekend in Indianapolis, and from here we go to Watkins Glen, another road course of Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez, AJ Allmendinger, and Alex Bowman. Who's the road course guy?
That would be the next to the last name you said there. One Anthony James Allmendinger.
That'll be interesting to watch. Also, while the Camping World Drag Racing Series was not in action last weekend, the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series was. We don't generally cover it, but because of one particular guy, we do cover the top alcohol division, and that's because of Tony Stewart. The three-time Cup champion, single-time IndyCar champion, running full-time in top alcohol this year. He made it to the finals against Matt Cummings. Matt Cummings lost a fuel pump. How do you lose a fuel pump in the middle of a race?
Not that hard to do, actually. Hard to do.
It goes boom.
Of all the things that I would have thought to go wrong on a car, fuel pump would not have been in my top 5.
Well, on the fuel pumps, and those are mechanical fuel pumps, the only thing that can go wrong to cause one to fail is the fuel pump rod breaking. What rides on the crank, rides on the camshaft that pumps the fuel pump. If that rod breaks, you're done.
And he didn't even make it to the finish line. Smoke ends up claiming the win, 5.291 ET, 271.9 miles per hour. That's his third win of 2023. And now he takes the points lead in the division. He's up 32 points on second place, Julie Natas. Tony Stewart might just win another dang championship. And here's the thing. You and I said this at the beginning of the year when we said he was running full-time in this division. You and I both pretty much said wouldn't be shocked if he did.
No, I wouldn't be. Not at all.
And he's certainly aiming for it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Thursday night in Eldora, SRX Superstar Racing Series got in race number 5 of their almost now too short 6-race season. We had a series first, by the way. For those who didn't or don't watch the series, as a general rule, the SRX series, at least at Eldora, did this. Now, all races are 2 heat races, and then they have a main. In this case, at Eldora, it was 2 25-lap heat races. Well, the first one was supposed to be 25 laps. They ended up timing out. We'll get back to that. And then from the first race finish, they invert the lineup for the second heat. And then they average your finish from the 2 heats, and that sets the starting lineup for the main feature. And that's been anywhere from generally 175 to 100 laps. It was 75 laps at Eldora. Tony Stewart is the co-founder of the series. He's also the owner of Eldora Speedway, and he pulled off a series first. He won both heats. We've never had a driver claim the win in both heats in SRX until Thursday night. Of course, things didn't hurt that Austin Dillon, who was making his SRX debut, blew up his engine in the first heat, took out 3 other cars with him, narrowing the 12-car field down a little bit. But considering how good Smoke's car was, I'm not so certain that if he had to pass all 11 other cars, it wouldn't have made a difference.
I don't think it would have either, because the car was too hooked up. Because he could point it anywhere he wanted it to go, and it would stick.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And,
yeah. Unreal.
It kind of made me scratch my head a little bit to see those SRX cars. It looked like the left rear was hiked up a little bit, just like a late model. And I'm going, how? But
set up for dirt.
He made it work.
He did. He made it work. Smoke was going to be on the pole, obviously, for the main. He blew the field out as he'd done in the heats, claims the win. It's his 5th win in 6 SRX dirt track races in its relatively short history. Haley Deegan claims 2nd, and Smoke actually in victory lane afterward did give her quite the compliment, saying she's a very underrated dirt track racer. Ryan Newman was 3rd, so there's your podium. Rest of your field made up of Bobby Labonte, Matt Kenseth, Marco Andretti, Chase Briscoe, who was able to recover from having severe suspension problems after that wreck with Austin Dillon in heat main number 1. Ken Schrader was in there, Brad Keselowski. Ron Capps was looking really good until, well, slammed into the wall.
Until he wasn't.
Yeah.
One thing about Briscoe, did you recognize when he came onto the track at lap 31? They did not count him laps down?
No, they didn't. They just let him go. Austin Dillon, Tony Kanaan, the last 2 not being able to start the main event. Obviously, Austin Dillon with a blown engine, and the backup had already been taken by Marco Andretti, so there was no backup for Tony Kanaan to get into. Ryan Newman had the chance to lock up the SRX season title in Eldora, but he didn't quite get enough points to get a big enough cushion. He now sits with a 183 to 144 point lead over Tony Stewart. I'll tell you what has to happen for all intents and purposes. Tony needs to do this Thursday exactly what he did at Eldora, and Ryan Newman has to effectively finish dead last. Mm-hmm. Because if Ryan Newman gets any significant points, I think in heat race number 1, he locks it down. Mm-hmm. So basically he's your champion in waiting. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Marco Andretti's got 136 to 133 for Brad Keselowski. Bobby Labonte's 129, 124 for Haley Deegan. Ken Schrader sits at 117. He's at the bottom of the points. Again, SRX this year changing things up. They're not awarding points to everybody. They're only awarding points to the full-time drivers. There's your 7. So everything really, first and second place, first and second is really the only one up for grabs. I don't think Marco Andretti has a points chance. I don't think. And even if he did, I don't think he's got enough to be able to get over both Newman and Stewart. So I think your battle is between first and second. And then Tony's not only trying to battle for the championship, he's also trying to hold off Andretti, Keselowski, and Labonte, who all have a chance to pass him in points. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot still to play for when it comes to this weekend's race, or this week's race. Speaking of which, your slate of racing actually began last night. Craftsman Truck Series running the T-Sport 200 at Lucas Oil Raceway Park in Indianapolis. Matt, what happened?
It was kind of a... stink up the show here. Ty Majeski leading 179 of the 200 laps of the race.
He was gone. Dominates
the whole race. Christian Eckes second. Lane Riggs with a really good run in third.
He really did. I mean, that was an impressive run for him.
Yep. Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, William Sawalich, Rajah Caruth, Corey Heim, Matt Crafton, and Matt DiBenedetto rounding out your top 10. So Majeski's now locked into the round of 8 automatically. Can breathe easy through the next part of this round.
Chances of him actually hoisting the title at the end of the year?
It's hard to say after race 1, so I'm going to call it 50-50.
Okay. Still not clear enough for you to be able to look through the fog yet.
Yep.
I got you. Later today, as we air live on Saturday mornings. We get into the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader. First up, the Gallagher Grand Prix on the Indianapolis Road Course for the NTT IndyCar Series. Now, Indianapolis Road Course, in case you have forgotten, 14 turns, 2.439 miles long, carved out of the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That race will air first on USA and IRN Radio beginning 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. Why they're not doing this on NBC, I haven't got the slightest clue. Then the Xfinity Series will take to the same track for the Pennzoil 150 presented by Advance Auto Parts, also on USA and IRN Radio, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. I'm wearing here my shirt that I got from the very first time that they did this a couple of years ago, and it was a lot of fun to go there. But here's the thing. This may be the last year for it.
Hey, kids, we have rain in play today already.
I'm shocked. We'll talk about it later on as to whether or not this may or may not continue. I don't think it'll happen next year. That's for certain. Sunday, Cup Series will take to the same Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. They're going to run the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard, NBC, IRN Radio, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. What have we been seeing all year long? If you need rain in your area, just schedule a NASCAR race. Mm-hmm. There you go. It's pretty much the way it goes.
Good thing they're not in Talladega this time of the year.
Woo. No kidding. Sunday, the Cup Series will take to, I talked about that. Then the NHRA gets back into action with the Menards NHRA Nationals presented by Pet Armor. Last time, more than likely, at Heartland Motorsports Park in Topeka, Kansas. We talked about that last week. The major problems that the ownership is having with the county. Probably going to end up with that track maybe being sold to somebody else. Maybe get plowed under. I don't know. Finals are going to air live on Fox Sports 1, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Formula One is off this weekend. Then you got the SRX Series. They're going to run the final race of their very short third season, 6-race season. They're going to crown their champion at the Lucas Oil Speedway, not to be confused with Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis. Lucas Oil Speedway is the dirt track in Wheatland, Missouri. Thursday Night Thunder, as you know, hopefully by now, airs on ESPN Thursday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. Got Soapbox ready?
Matter of fact, I got the driver in hand, ready to go to the tee box.
Soapboxes are out, polished, ready to go, and we're ready to hit the Big Bertha driver next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Okay, here's the thing. In case you missed the very beginning of the show, Matt Nicholson's got a prior appointment, and he's only going to be with us for hour one of the show today.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to kind of jump a little bit here. We got Cup Series, and we're going to get into Formula One stuff as well before we kind of get back into doing the regular format of the news by series. And the reason why is because we have things that we want to get off our chest.
That's an understatement.
And arguably the biggest story of the week came out of the Cup Series, the news that Noah Gragson got first suspended by Legacy MC from the 42 car immediately, not only by Legacy MC, but by NASCAR, when it was discovered that he had clicked like on a particular social media meme. Now, the meme, it can be considered questionable in taste, admittedly. It has a picture of George Floyd's head on the crab from the animated Little Mermaid movie with the words "under the knee" superimposed as opposed to what the song was, which was "under the sea." Again, yeah, questionable in taste. Is this an offense worthy of a multiple race suspension? That is the big question. Well, first, let's deal with the news part of it. So Gragson was out immediately. Legacy MC tabbed Josh Berry at the last second to fill in for Gragson last weekend in Michigan. His race came to an end on lap 50 of 200. He was credited with finishing 34th. This weekend, the 42 will be piloted by sports car ace Mike Rockenfeller, who helped Chevrolet run the Garage 52 entry at Le Mans. And Rockenfeller is going to be in the car for the next 2 weeks. Not only this week at Indy, but next week at Watkins Glen. After that, when we get ready to go to Daytona, I guess they'll figure it out then.
Mm-hmm.
There's another aspect to this that I'm going to tee off on here in just a couple of moments. Matt, you have the floor first.
Let me gather myself up here for this one. What are we doing? I'm going to say this right off the top. If we're... This is part A. Let me say this. This is part A.
Yeah, this is going to be a multiple-pronged rant.
If we're doing this right here to people in general, there are... And I say it this way because in ways this is true. There are very, very few people in this world in general. I'm going to use the term a handful. This is a big world. That are not on social media.
Okay.
At one point, some can say this, some can't say this. And that's why I'm putting that disclaimer out there. At one point, and sometime, every single one of us has seen a meme of some kind. Whether it be, I'm going to use the term, whether it be a rated G meme, or it may be a rated NC-17 meme.
Sure.
We've all seen them.
Yeah.
Between one rating or the other, some of us have had our fan going, this is pretty funny, and hit the little heart button at some point, whether it be one spectrum or the other. I'll fully admit I've been one of them. I'm going, that's pretty funny. Huh. That's all right there. But if we've got people, little snoops, let's say this, that are going around just because they don't like one person or the other. Ooh, let's see here. Noah liked this. Noah liked this. If we did this to everybody, would we have a workforce in the United States of America, let alone the world, if this was going to be the result?
No.
Absolutely not, we wouldn't. It would be bare bones, everybody depending off of government resources just to live, because nobody would be able to work if this is the standard that's now being set, because everybody... Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to say this. Mm-hmm. Because there's this image. I'm going to word it as an image.
Okay.
Being painted now that... And you can't tell me that it's from a political sense. The first thing I'm going to say with this right here, after saying that, the first thing I'm going to say right here, it still burns me up to this day. Oh, we've got to make NASCAR more diverse. We got to make motorsports more diversity, more inclusion. All right, the people that are saying this are the very people that I have seen, that guy right there has seen, walking through the garage area in the middle of African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, people that live, and I'm going to use the term, an alternate lifestyle, and so forth, walking through the very same garage that we both have walked through multiple times. And I counted them the other day. I've been to now 21. I'm a very fortunate individual. Mm-hmm. I've been to 21 NASCAR sanctioned facilities. The diversity through the garage area, whether it be from a fan perspective, fans walking through the garage area, working within the teams, or in general, is wider than I have ever seen it in my life.
Agreed.
Is it a bad thing? Absolutely not.
No, I have no problem with it at all.
Absolutely not. It's not a bad thing. With the I'm going to pivot back to June. What did we all have to see? Everybody promoting in June, Pride Month. There is an individual that's an engineer on a very, very prominent team in Cup. Yes, I said Cup. That lives that lifestyle. Do I hate the guy? Heck no, I don't. He's got an ability and he's got a talent that this race team's seen, and it's a pretty successful team that's getting better week by week. So stop with the inclusion crap. Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, open your eyes.
Open your eyes, do your job, report on the sport, not from the political side of it, not from the whatever you want to call it. Let's just say the political side of it, ball it all into one.
I want to give you a chance to catch your breath here for a moment.
Yeah.
Because you
Please do.
said this is a reporter.
Oh, yes, reporter, and I've got the article right here.
When did we get to the point where if you see something, say something turned into, if you see something questionable, tattletale? I mean, I get it. If you see something, say something. If you see a random backpack, I mean, I've got one here. That's what I carried all my stuff in this morning. Okay? But if I happen to leave this in an inconspicuous or even conspicuous place at an airport, in the infield of any of the racetracks that we have gone to and or go to on a regular basis, would I expect somebody to be cautious about it? Sure. Because it is unattended, sitting out there, and nobody knows what the heck is going on.
Absolutely.
Social media is available to everybody. I get that. But are we 5?
No.
I had a birthday on Wednesday. I turned 55. I don't have a desire to tell Matt's wife everything Matt does.
Nor do I have a desire to tell Steve's wife everything that he does.
And along those same lines, I don't have the desire to tell producer John's wife everything producer John does.
That's a good thing.
And the reason why is because we live our lives in specific ways. The way that I'm going to go through and approach things in my life, Matt does it a little different. Producer John does it a little bit different. But the reason that we're all three on this show is because we're all kind of pulling along in the basic same direction. If John says something or does something that I don't particularly care for, I'll probably talk to him. Am I going to talk to his wife and say, please talk to producer John? No. To this reporter, who Matt's going to get to in a second, if Noah Gragson does something you don't like, why are you telling Legacy MC? Why don't you go to Noah? You got a problem with somebody, go to that person. Fix the problem. If that doesn't fix the problem, then you take it up a step. Instead of pushing the panic fire alarm alert button. I don't get it.
Exactly. Go ahead. Now that I've hit my layup shot off the tee box, I'm about to pull the driver out and go for the 400-yard shot down the middle of the green and go for the green 2 on the par 5.
You mean like the flamethrower?
Yeah. What is the one thing that motorsports in general, mainly NASCAR, has started preaching and they've started enforcing from a United States government level? Keep what out of racing? Politics. Keep politics out of racing.
Yep. I mean, to the point where they're even saying we're not going to allow this particular sponsor or that particular sponsor.
Exactly. Now, backing up, everybody said, well, they allowed this Christy Noem to be on the Live Fast car. That was from a state level. That's not a national level. That's a state level. Different story. All right. Daniel McFadden does writing for frontstretch.com. Overall, pretty good little site. It does respectable, and that's word in the respectable reporting.
Absolutely.
But he writes for someone else too.
Uh-oh.
You want to know who he writes for, boys?
By all means.
The Arkansas, brace yourself, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Little Rock, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Guess what we're doing right there? We're allowing politics and politically motivated things to be infused and poured into the sport. Okay. Noah Gragson's big mistake. Okay, he goes through giving the story about the George Floyd situation, yada, yada, yada.
It doesn't take much to
2 weeks later,
learn or remember the history of George Floyd.
2 weeks later, NASCAR released a video saying, drivers saying, I will learn and listen. Listen and learn, however you want to say it. Listen and learn into what? From drivers that have members of their teams and their respective pit crews that are from different ethnicities. Mm-hmm. I will still say to this day, you can't tell me that there was a political motivation behind that. You cannot. You're not going to change my mind.
Noah Gragson saw something, he got a chuckle out of it, he hit like.
Okay. Then he goes to section talking about the meme. Then he goes about, when I got the chance last night, I immediately sent an email to Legacy Motor Club's PR representatives asking about this. Did they see it? Okay. I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to read the questions that he asked of it. I'm reaching out regarding a complicated and potentially sensitive issue regarding Noah Gragson's social media activity. Early this morning, a Twitter account posted a tweet, and then I saw it that's now on an Instagram Reels from May 27th. The post itself depicts exactly what Steve described earlier. The screenshot, if legitimate, shows Noah liking the post. The post has 80,000 likes.
Noah Gragson wasn't the only one.
If the screenshot is accurate and not fabricated, Noah's like of this post came at some point before it reached 78,000 likes. Okay, if you've got the time to dissect, if it's from 80,000 likes, let's see. Let's do the math here. When he liked it, it was at about 78,000 likes. You need to get a life. Do stuff on the sport that you work into. Do stuff for the sport you work for. Do your job.
I'd also ask Mr. McFadden this. Did he take the time to figure out who made the meme, who initially posted the meme, and all of the other 80,000 people who liked the meme and send emails to their bosses?
To my next point, that's what I was about to say right there. He goes on to say, unfortunately, in this case, Instagram, you cannot look up someone else's likes. But you went to the trouble to find what Noah Gragson liked. Okay, let me give you a little refresher course on how Instagram works there, Daniel. Okay, if it's somebody that you follow on Instagram and you look at likes, you can look and say where it says liked by. You tap on where it says the word right there. The people that you follow first are the ones that you're going to see first in that line. And then you're going to be able to see all 80,000 other names that are in there. I tried scrolling through the likes on the post itself, but it only lets you scroll through a limited amount of. No, that's completely false. So the ability to verify if Noah indeed liked the meme is hard, or even when he may have liked it. I'm contacting you to see if one, the team has been made aware of Noah's potential liking of this Instagram post. 2, does Noah remember liking the meme or acknowledge if he did so? If he did so, why? If this is a real screenshot and Noah did like a post mocking the murder of George Floyd, yes, he wrote that. What is the reaction of Jimmy Johnson or anyone from team ownership? Thank you, Daniel McFadden. Okay, at the end of your article, Daniel, you put George Floyd didn't deserve to die. Let me ask you this question. Does anyone deserve to die other than, there's another than, people that commit a heinous crime and taking the life of another person? Outside of that, does anybody deserve to die? The last I checked at 8:39 a.m. on August the 12th, the answer is no.
There's also another aspect to this that has me set off, and you referred to it. Jordan Bianchi. We've talked about Jordan Bianchi on the show. We've referenced Jordan Bianchi. We've actually quoted some of the stuff that he has put out there. But he came out with a report on Tuesday on The Athletic that turned out to be 100% false.
Ding!
Because we're up against time, we're going to take a break. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Our soapbox time and teeing off ain't done on this story. And I still got to get to a Formula One deal before we get back into all the regular news. So stick around. Part 2 of teeing off on this particular story coming up. We'll get the entire story about Noah Gragson and Legacy MC, and then we'll talk about the Formula One soapbox topic next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yep, I'm back on the tee box, ready to hit another drive. Another aspect about this Legacy MC Noah Gragson thing, again, Saturday suspended by Legacy MC and NASCAR for liking the meme. Josh Berry fills in. Tuesday, Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic comes out with a report claiming that Legacy MC had fired Noah Gragson, cutting ties with him after less than 1 year, because remember, he took over the 42 car for this year at the beginning. It was a surprising bit of information, which was then refuted by, of all places and all people, a particular guy who we don't necessarily trust all that much at motorsport.com. Reported later on in the day that the report on The Athletic was false. Legacy MC has not commented other than to keep the statement of the initial suspension on their website up to that point, stating that Gragson's, quote, actions do not represent the values of our team, unquote. Now, as opposed to Bianchi jumping the gun and getting it wrong, the truth came out on Thursday in a press release from Legacy MC, which you're about to see on CRN Live, courtesy of Legacy MC themselves. Noah Gragson's quoted, says, quote, I have asked Legacy Motor Club to release me from my contract so that I can take time to work through the NASCAR reinstatement process. I love racing. I'm looking forward to a second chance to compete for wins at the highest level of NASCAR, and most importantly, make my family, my team, and the fans proud of me once again. The organization's part of the statement in the press release said this, quote, Noah has a ton of talent and has a great personality. This is a difficult situation. But we're proud that Noah has taken ownership of his actions, and we're confident he will work through the process with NASCAR and come back stronger. It just won't be with Legacy MC. Again, you can see what basically I was talking about if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. Jordan, you've been around for a while, dude. Which could be said for the same guy from motorsport.com or from Darren McFadden or us, for that matter. You've been in and around this business for a while. Now, I'm not just talking about press. I'm talking about NASCAR. A cornerstone for me when it came to starting this show was a little 15-minute segment on a Saturday afternoon show over a decade ago. Was that I didn't want to bring about rumors and speculation without telling you, the listener or viewer, if you're on CRN Live on YouTube, that this is a speculation or this is a rumor. I'll play with it, but I'll tell you in front it's a rumor or it's speculation.
One of the very first statements of things that I learned about this field in general came from right there.
The second part of it, and this is the main tent pole, if you will, confirmation. If I get a story and I see it from one person who I trust, but I don't see it from anybody else, I'll state X person said this. X person is reporting this. Otherwise, I want confirmation. Because trust is huge. I want you, the fans of this show, in however it is that you digest it, to understand that what you're getting from us, unless specifically stated beforehand as rumor and or speculation, is the truth as best as we can find it. Because if I have to go back and I have to make a retraction after retraction after retraction, I start losing credibility. And if I start losing credibility, Matt starts losing credibility. And producer John starts losing credibility.
And then
the
I
brand,
get mad.
And the brand, CRN, starts losing credibility, and you start looking at it and going, why am I listening? Why am I watching? Mm-hmm. They're not credible. That's what this is based on. And there are too many reporters, be they in sports or in news or in entertainment or in weather, doesn't matter, who don't seem to get it.
They're too focused on trying to be the first to get it right.
Bingo. I'd rather be last on a story and be 100% correct than be first on a story and have to come back to you and go, oops, sorry, got it wrong.
There's your learning moment, kids.
We got a severe thunderstorm warning out. No, sun's brightly shining.
Yeah, severe
For an example.
Severe thunderstorm warning for Calhoun County. No, there's not a cloud in the sky, boys.
I'm not doing that.
Nuts.
I won't do that. I'm not going to try and do something to be first on a story. I'm simply not.
Yeah. I mean, it's this has got. I said this a couple weeks ago, and my theory has proven itself to be correct. The one thing I say on the show quite frequently: equipment that a driver's sitting in, whether it be me, if it's him, or if it's John, that equipment that we may be respectively sitting in is going to expose real fast if it's the driver or if it's the car.
Bingo.
What happened to Josh Berry? And Josh Berry's a pretty good driver, if you ask me.
He is. There's a reason why he's going to Stewart Haas Racing in the 4-car next year.
It exposed real quick. Noah Gragson's not the problem. Legacy Motor Club is the problem. That car in particular, and I'm going to give you a scenario, and you can't tell me I'm wrong. Take the 43 of Legacy and the 42 of Legacy, line them up side by side with the 7 and the 77 Aspire, and tell me if that's not a mirror image scenario.
I think
Tell
you're
me
on
it's
it.
not.
I think you're on it.
One car is predominantly better than the other one. That's not the problem. This has got Toyota's hands all over it.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, that is 1,000,000% breach of contract.
To boil this all down, think of it this way.
Oh,
This Noah Gragson.
I could go to 10 o'clock on this.
Noah Gragson thing, right?
Yeah.
You're at work. You happen to like something on Facebook. Your boss comes in and says, that's inappropriate. You're fired. That's essentially what happened here.
That is.
So think about that. I mean, it blows my mind. Yeah, Facebook's the devil. That's all I'm going to say.
Well,
There you go.
Twitter's the devil. I'm okay. I'm going to
Social media.
There you go.
yeah,
We'll
I'm-
just blanket it.
I'm going to turn the little knob on the stove from 10 all the way off with this right here. Everybody knows the Couch Racer brand is Freddie Kraft and Brett Griffin, little clothing company they got that they have on social media that they follow sports and do opinions and everything, and everybody knows it's Freddie and Brett. August 6th, they put out, should Noah have been suspended? I replied. I said, no, here's my reasoning. Every one of us at some point or another has hit a like button on a meme or a picture of some kind and it be in bad taste. Are we all perfect? Heck no. We all learn from the mistake. We issue an appropriate apologies if necessary and move on. Not totally kill someone's career just because you have a certain belief or lean a certain political way and blow something up way larger than it should be. If we did this with everyone on social media, we wouldn't have a workforce in America. The cancel culture mentality is killing society overall because humans can't move forward from mistakes because social media and the mentality drags it out to an unnecessary degree. My next thing that I said is based off of what previous drivers or crew members have had to go through and be back in the sport. Put him in the sensitivity training and move forward on all caps. Social media has its positives, but the negatives heavily outweigh the positives. 6,671 views now later with 141 engagements of some kind.
There you go. There's so many people I'd like to hashtag that too, or tag in that particular post. But I'm going to leave that alone. Here's the other one. This one's really more for me, but by all means, producer John, Matt, they can chime in as they want.
Do those people like Cabo Webo Tequila?
I was going a little higher, actually.
Roll Tide, baby. I had to.
I understand.
I didn't have a choice.
The other big tee-off story here regards Formula One. FIA President Ben Sulayem noted he is keen on adding to Formula One. We've been talking about this whole situation about the FIA taking the applications of interest, and after they finally closed it down, saying, hey, we're going through the review process. We thought the review process was going to be done by now, and we might actually know who was going to be added. And then he just kind of kept putting it off and putting it off. But Ben Sulayem noted he's very keen on adding to Formula One. Specifically, he wants works teams. He wants them to come from specific countries. We talked about this a little bit on the show last week. He talked to motorsport.com, said, quote, my dream is a full United States of America team from OEM. I'd also like to see an OEM, original equipment manufacturer, from China. Well, China's not known to have any involvement in the application process as far as F1 at this time. And we did note that while the United States does have Ford coming to Formula One in 2026, remember, they're only going to be labeled as the engine partner for Red Bull and what we now call AlphaTauri. But it does leave the door open, wide open, for the Andretti Cadillac entry. It's General Motors. At one time, the biggest car maker on the planet, and still one of the top three. Liberty Media, who's the commercial rights holders for Formula One, technically they answer to the FIA, have let it be known that inflationary concerns driving up the cost of the inaugural Las Vegas race, and it's driving up other costs that may be reflected or should be reflected when it comes to if and when said new team comes in.
Huh.
In other words, they're not satisfied with the $200 million entry fee, which has to be split 10 ways. Only gets, quote-unquote, $20 million to each team. Okay, fine. Up it. Make it $500 million. Make it $600 million. It doesn't matter. Here's your problem. Money is a situation, but you want to know the bigger problem? Here it is. How many cars start a field in Cup Series?
That would be 30, average week now, 36 to 37, but typically 40.
Okay. How many cars this year generally have made up the full-time IndyCar field? Higher than that, John.
27.
27. Remind me how many cars and teams there are in Formula E right now?
23 or 24.
22.
22. That's close.
Everybody in Formula One, led by Toto Wolff, maybe led around by the nose by Toto Wolff, have been claiming that they don't want to see the profit Formula One pie, the Formula One pie of profit, be cut into yet another piece. What have I said here on this show in the past? The United States of America is the largest sports market on the planet. We gobble down sports like no other country on this planet. I'm not trying to put any other country on this planet down. We all love our sports. But we gobble down everything. And in motorsports, it doesn't matter whether it's NASCAR, Cup Series, Xfinity, trucks, IndyCar, Formula One, NHRA, SRX. We're talking about minimum 750,000 people watching any one of those events, all the way up to 3+ million for the average race. And for the Daytona 500, it was, I think, 8.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
10 to 15 million people watch an average National Football League game. An average one. You get to the Super Bowl, my gosh, it tops 100 million people. That's a third of the population of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the United States. 1 to 3 million people watch an average Major League Baseball game, an average National Basketball Association game. About 1 million people watch an average National Hockey League game. About 750,000 people watch an average Major League Soccer game. I don't care who they are. And we're not talking the championship. We're not talking about the playoffs. We're talking about an average regular season game or race. Liberty Media has been so keen on adding to the United States that not only did we get COTA, which now seems quite solid, we got a race in Miami in a parking lot. And now we have a third race coming up later this year that when it runs in the United States is going to start at 10 p.m. because we want to make sure the rest of the world can see the Las Vegas race on the street. That's how much Liberty Media wants to be in the United States of America.
What if I wanted to see Australia? They're going to start the Australia race at 4 p.m. during the day instead of me having to get up at 1 a.m. to watch it?
If you really want the United States to be a major fan of Formula One,
put the team in.
You got to do a little more than what Haas F1 is doing. Haas F1 has a decent start. And they're trying to become a respectable, solid, mid-level team. As opposed to whether or not they can ever become a championship-level team, I don't know. Michael Andretti is not going to be satisfied sitting around being a mid-level operation. Look at every other series that Michael Andretti's involved in. Is he happy being mid-level? No. Last year, when Andretti Autosport and Indycar couldn't claim a win, what did he do? He effectively cleaned house and started all over. And he's bringing Cadillac, General Motors, third biggest automaker worldwide, along with him. If you don't think that Michael Andretti isn't keenly aware that being able to root for an American automaker on an American car, and in all likelihood putting at least one American-born driver in one of those two cars that he will field, would not raise the profile of Formula One in the United States of America, all 10 other teams in Formula One need to open their eyeballs and take off whatever colored glasses they got on, because they're blind. You're thinking short term. Think long term. This is an investment in your future. To have the American-owned, American-based, American major corporation sponsored an American driver-based operation in your series. It helps you grow. And if you grow, the money follows. Wake up and get with the program.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Whew, busy hour one. If you missed it, go back and check it out. CRN Live on YouTube. I'm Steve West. Producer
Highly
John
spirited,
is here.
I would say. Highly spirited.
Yes, it was. Producer John's here. Matt had to go. Matt had a prior appointment, so he was only able to be with us for hour number one. That's why things were, well, not the way that you're kind of used to them. But we got a lot of news that we need to get to, and we want to make sure that you hear it so that you are fully prepared for this weekend. And we start with a picture from what's going to happen at Indianapolis later on today that really regards NASCAR. They're kind of hoping to clean up this logjam that kind of tends to take place when they go into turn one on the Indy road course, and their solution has been to move the restart zone back a little bit this year. The new placement for the restart zone puts it specifically before the final corner of the 14-turn course, and they're hoping that the cars will have policed themselves. In other words, spread apart a bit more as they go through 14 and have the entire front stretch to navigate. And it has been kind of a mess down there. You can see on the picture right there where the new restart zone is. We'll find out. That's a narrow part right there, and it's kind of deceptively narrow. When I was there a couple of years ago, that's not too far away from where I was sitting, right about underneath the canopy right there as pit road, and I'm using the pit road as it would be in the Indy 500, comes to an end right there, going down the front stretch. That's about where I was sitting. So I had a real good look at these cars coming off of 14 in 2021. And that's deceptively narrow through there. So I get the funny feeling this might actually do what they're looking for. And this is the third year that IndyCar and NASCAR have come together on this weekend, but there is some thought that with the Olympics coverage that are interrupting things next year, which we've detailed on the show the last couple of weeks, this doubleheader may be done, and NASCAR may boom back to running on the rectangle that is the classic Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which I don't really have a problem with that idea. I'd love to see the Brickyard 400 come back because, you know, it can be to a certain extent kind of boring, but at the same time, there's something just really, really cool about looking at the classic track. And there's, unless you're standing on the pagoda, there's no good place to sit at Indianapolis Motor Speedway to watch a road course race because you miss a lot. You're either on the back stretch and you miss the entire front stretch, or you're sitting on the front stretch and you miss practically everything along the back stretch. It's just the way that Indianapolis is, my opinion. Cup Series playoff clinching scenarios for this weekend include the idea that one of the non-eligible playoff drivers claims a win. If that happens, any driver that's at least 111 points above the third place winless driver in points makes it in. This is where, when we ran down the points after the Michigan race, we can look at Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski and go, solid, probably in. Otherwise, Harvick needs 44 points over the course of this weekend's race, including potential stage points, to be able to clinch his playoff spot on points. Brad Keselowski can point his way in as well, needs 54 points to do so. Several drivers with only a win would lock in a slot since, including this weekend, we've only got 3 races left in the regular season. We've got Indy, we've got Watkins Glen, we got Daytona. Martin Truex Jr. put all the rumors about whether or not he's going to be racing in 2024 in Cup Series to rest. He will. So John still has Martin Truex Jr. to root for next year. The 2017 Cup champion said last Saturday he signed a one-year extension with Joe Gibbs Racing to drive the 19 car in 2024. So again, it puts to rest, at least for a short time, the question of Truex's future, but it does look like he's going to be on a year-to-year basis from here on out. Truex Jr. did say this as well, quote, "It just didn't feel right not to come back, keep doing what we're doing. I'm excited to get that out of the way and continue to work on this year. Obviously excited for next year as well now. Felt like the right thing to do was to keep going because the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, don't be stupid. We're going to race another year, see how it goes." All right. Let's see how it goes. Good luck. Roush Fenway Racing at one point was the biggest team in NASCAR. They ran 5 cars in the Cup Series, back before NASCAR limited teams to 4 at tops. Now they're down to two full-time cars, but Brad Keselowski is now in as co-owner of Roush Fenway Keselowski, and things are looking up. 2 straight wins for Chris Buescher. Brad Keselowski looks all but locked into the playoffs, so things looking up over there. Performance has definitely ticked up. Could they potentially add to that pair of cars? He was asked about it. With their alliance partner looking a little more serious about getting out of the cellar as well, Rick Ware Racing, you might remember a couple of weeks ago, signed Justin Haley to drive for them full-time in 2024. So Keselowski was asked about adding that third team to the RFK stable and replied, quote, "I think we definitely would like to do that, but it's easier said than done. For the time being, I think we're quite satisfied with the relationship that we're building with the Rick Ware Racing cars, which allows us to kind of add some depth to our roster without going out and buying another charter right now." And then he expanded on that particular part of that situation, talking about how getting charters these days is much more difficult because of the expanded interest in Cup Series by new teams, new team owners, or expanding out of current teams. He said, quote, "It's almost impossible right now to buy a charter. Nobody's selling one. No matter what your offer is, you can't buy one. I think there's been some people knocking on the door with a lot of money. The answer is, quote, your money's not good anywhere." That tells me right now that what we're looking for and what we're hoping for when it comes to NASCAR is coming to fruition. We're seeing a bit of a renaissance. There was a downtime when it came to NASCAR. And there are a lot of people that are kind of complaining about the fact that it seems like it's all Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing and Stuart Haas and Roush Fenway Keselowski, the big teams. And to a certain extent, they're right. But there is a reason for that. We came to the realization when we had teams that had 2 and 3 and 4, and in the case of Roush Fenway, 5 cars, that you could share a lot of information amongst the cars and amongst the drivers and be able to make everybody better. Rising tide lift all boats, right? So NASCAR said, well, we want to have more owners than just a select few. So we're going to limit you to 4 Cup teams, 4 Xfinity teams, 4 Craftsman Truck Series teams. You can't put any more on the track than that unless you have a special circumstance, and we'll take it under consideration, but probably let you put a 5th car out there or truck for a one-time deal. And that's great. But we're still seeing the haves and the have-nots. Can you climb from a have-not into a have? Front Row Motorsports seems to be able to be starting to make it work. Roush Fenway, which was a have, worked into a have-not, seems to be building back up into a have. Depending on the car you're looking at, Spire Motorsports, which came in as an operation that, had a full-time charter on the 77 car, but no full-time driver, seemed to be just kind of playing around in the Cup Series for a while. Now it seems like they've gotten more serious. We got full-time drivers for both the 7 and the 77 car. It has proven some dividends for the 77. Or for the 7, I'm sorry. For the 77, we're still waiting for that. Rick Ware Racing, on the other hand, has been a backmarker their entire time in the Cup Series. They need help. And it doesn't matter to me whether it comes from Roush Fenway Keselowski or Stuart Haas or Team Penske or who. They need help from somebody somewhere. Justin Haley, hired full-time, good driver with a heritage of being able to claim wins, might be part of the answer. He's not the whole solution. This might be a good move here. But again, in the past couple of years, we've seen Trackhouse come in, we've seen Live Fast come in, among others. And those charters are drying up. They're not out there like they once were. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because again, it tells me that we have a lot of interest from a lot of people who want to be in this sport. It's the same thing when it comes to IndyCar. I applaud the fact that there are 27 full-time cars and there might be 28, 29, or even 30 next year. Because that shows that there is more and more interest from people who want to put teams out onto the track. And they all know that it's all about money. There's a great old saying, sad at the same time. How do you make a small fortune in racing? Start off with a big one. but there are more and more people who are willing to take that quote-unquote big fortune and go out there and race. Same thing for Formula One. It's not just Michael Andretti and Cadillac. There are 3 or 4 others that have already come out and said, yeah, we definitely put in an application of interest. That's good for Formula One. If the morons that are on the current 10 teams will open their eyes and realize it's a good thing.
I was about to say the same thing.
NHRA teams are the exact same way. We're seeing more and more teams that are coming in and running at least a part-time schedule, and they're going, you know what, I'd like to be full-time within the next couple of years. This is a good thing. Embrace it, Formula One. Embrace it, Indycar. Embrace it, NASCAR. Embrace it, NHRA. And all of them, really say Formula One, seem to be, to their credit. Rumors surrounding Eric Almirola's potential replacement, should he retire, seem to have gone up in smoke, if you'll pardon the pun. The rumors have said that should Almirola retire, Stewart-Haas Racing was going to pluck Michael McDowell from Front Row Motorsports to take over the 10 car, and then Front Row would be turning probably to promising Ford Performance youngster Zane Smith and move him up to Cup. Well, Front Row Motorsports blew that apart with a massive hand grenade. Maybe a Claymore mine. Front Row Motorsports announced this week they picked up the contract options for both Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland. It means both are returning to their respective Front Row Motorsports rides in 2024. It also appears that Gilliland, who's technically part-time this year in the 38 car, splitting that car with Zane Smith, is actually going to be full-time next year. And we say, why? We'll get back to that when we get to Craftsman Truck Series news. Over at Trackhouse Racing, Shane Van Gisbergen running at least one more Cup Series race in their Project 91 car this year. After winning his first ever Cup Series race on the streets of Chicago, said that he would be interested in coming over to NASCAR full-time, and that, of course, led to rumors. Lots of rumors. Compounded by the fact that his Australian Supercars operation, named 888, had said that they weren't going to hold SVG to his contract if a Cup ride came to fruition, even though the contract between the team and driver runs through next year. Well, now we got a report from Sports Business Journal. They're generally reliable. They now state that SVG and Trackhouse Racing are working on finalizing a deal that would move SVG from Australia to run Cup in the Project 91 car next year. But the report states that this probably is a little bit more of a developmental deal. In other words, it won't be a full-time ride just yet. One of the reasons is something that I just referred to in the story about Roush Fenway Keselowski trying to get hold of a charter, which is either non-existent or amazingly expensive. Last night, SVG ran in the Truck Series race. He ran for Nice Motorsports. Don't be surprised if indeed SVG is full-time NASCAR next year, technically an employee of Trackhouse Racing, but gets a lot of time running in both Craftsman Truck Series and Xfinity as well to get him much more comfortable with this kind of racing. Longtime NASCAR sponsor Busch Light, currently on the 4-car for Stewart-Haas Racing, has cleared a promotion for the upcoming Las Vegas race. Las Vegas is known for quickie marriages, quickie divorces. How about the ultimate in a quickie marriage? They're going to perform the Busch Light Pit Stop Wedding. Can't make this stuff up, boys and girls. Company's currently asking for those who are interested to let them know on social media by using the hashtags Busch Pit Stop Wedding and Contest, and tell them why you deserve to be the couple that gets married during the extremely short ceremony. How short? Kind of get some of the idea, courtesy of Busch Light social media right there on CRN Live on YouTube. They're saying this wedding ceremony will take less than 15 seconds. And the person performing your ceremony is no less than the Bush guy from the TV commercials. You're going to do it in front of 80,000 of your closest friends. While it won't happen during the race, the ceremony will be performed on pit road right next to the pit box of the 4-car. No word on whether the 4-car will be in the pit box at that time, but wouldn't that be a nice little backdrop? So thinking about getting married? Can you convince your wife that you need to be on pit road in a 15-second ceremony? Good luck. Be interesting to see who does that. Let's see. What do we got here? Let's turn our attention over to Formula One here. F1's off until late this month. A lot of talk about whether the teams are still concentrating on their 2023 cars or realizing, like we did, after about race 6 of this 22-race year, that Red Bull's walking away with this one. So we'll turn our attention to 2024 and enter Mercedes. They're in second. A distant second, mind you, in the F1 Constructors' Cup points run. But Toto Wolff said earlier on this week that his team has turned the page. They're working on their 2024 cars already. Quote, the sales are set for 2024 now. We still have some updates with the car, the W14, the car for this year. But I find focus switching to next year being good because there's so much that we can optimize on the current car without looking too much into upgrades this year. Let's see how much we can get into more of a sweet spot while gaining a lot of understanding on next year. The more learnings we can find, the better place we're going to be for 2024 and beyond. Okay. I see where you're going there, Toto. Speaking of turning the page on the 2023 car, Christian Horner trying to one-up himself. He had one of the understatements of the century last year when he said, basically it's going to take something major for Max Verstappen not to win the title this year. Duh. So, yeah, Red Bull's turned the page on 2023 as well. Christian Horner said this week, that's pretty much it when it came to the 2023 car. The team is now starting to concentrate on their 2024 cars. So let's do a quick review here. 12 races into the 2023 season. Red Bull is, that's right, 12 for 12. They've won every single race this year. I think they nailed it. I think you could turn the page and probably not do an update on the car for the rest of the year and might still sweep the year. Nailed it. There's more respect, especially amongst the drivers, for fellow drivers, regardless of what series they race in. But Max Verstappen thinks Formula One might be going too far down the road of NASCAR-like. We'll detail that next.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West, producer John here. And over the course of this show, we went from just concentrating on NASCAR, and of that, mostly was the Cup Series, because as I referenced early on in hour number one, in case you missed it, this really started off as a 15-minute segment on a news talk show that I was doing more than a decade ago. And then everything kind of got expanded out. It became a very, very popular segment, and it turned into an hour. And that hour became a situation where we started talking about all three top series of NASCAR. And then I had a person call and ask, would you consider doing Formula One? And I thought about it. I'm like, it's actually not a bad idea. And if I'm going to do Formula One, why wouldn't I do the American-based open wheel series Indycar? So then we became NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula One. And over the course of time, we started thinking about it, and Formula E came into existence, and I thought, wow, what a weird little curiosity, which has now turned into a 10-year apparent permanent fixture, even though it's still kind of an oddball. And then we thought, why don't we bring the NHRA in? And then Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham brought about the SRX series, and that's what you get now, and that's what you see. If you're looking on CRN Live, you can see all the different series that we generally cover. And we do tend to cover a little bit of Arkham Menard series news. We'll even cover some IMSA news and things like, I don't know, 24 Hours of Daytona, things like that. But over the course of time, what I have noticed is that some fans are a little bit overly protective of their series. NASCAR claims that they've got the best drivers on the planet. I've got a couple of hardcore Formula One fans that listen and or watch the show that go, yeah, right. I tend to respect all of these guys and girls because they're doing something that I want to do, but I'm not that talented. And there's a reason why I'm on the radio reporting it as opposed to being behind the wheel doing it. All of these drivers on all of those series are much more talented than I am at it. And the other side of it is the fact that all of these drivers have a heck of a lot of respect for their fellow drivers, regardless of what series they're in. And that brings us to Max Verstappen. He's worried Formula One actually might go too far down the road in one aspect of NASCAR, specifically when it comes to racing in the wet. Rain caused race stewards to shorten last weekend's the sprint race of Belgium a couple of weeks ago from 11 down to 11 laps after running 5 formation laps in an attempt to try and clear some of the ponding on the track. Verstappen, who won both the sprint and the race itself, noted that yes, there were visibility problems, but added, quote, it's always been like that. Just ask the older drivers in F1 too. They didn't see anything. Of course, certain accidents happen that have bad outcomes, and then people naturally start to talk about it more. But if you look at it that way, you can't really race in the rain anymore because there will always be problems with visibility, and that would be a shame. Then it becomes like NASCAR. They don't drive in the rain either. Of course, NASCAR does on street and road courses. Witness Chicago. They will run on street and road courses in wet weather conditions. They've introduced a package for some short tracks this season that they've kind of tested out a little bit. This is for short tracks that are flatter, though. You can do it at a place like New Hampshire. You can do it at a place like Martinsville. You can do it at a place like Richmond. You can't really do it at Bristol. There's a reason why we don't run in the rain on these high-banked, very fast tracks. There's a reason why they're only doing this at specific short tracks, because the pressure on the tire is too much. It's just the way it goes. If NASCAR was like Formula One and did nothing but street courses and road courses, yeah, they could run wet weather tires all the time. I don't think Formula One's going to turn into NASCAR. I don't think they want to. I don't think NASCAR wants to turn into Formula One either. They certainly want to put a whole bunch of different variety of tracks out there to take what they call the best drivers in the world in the stock car series and prove it. But you need to have that combination of super speedways like Talladega, Daytona, now Atlanta, all the way down to your intermediate tracks like Charlotte or Kansas or Las Vegas or Texas Motor Speedway, just a few. And you need to have your short tracks, but I think you need to have your road courses as well. I have no problem with that. And I like the fact that they're putting more variety in the playoffs as well. Test the drivers. That's what this should be. And it should be that way in every single series. Over in Formula E, a lot of silly season because, hey, their year is over. So now they're getting prepared for next year. And despite just missing out on a championship this season, Jaguar likes driver Mitch Evans enough they've signed him to a multi-year contract extension. The deal, presuming he fulfills the entire pact, would make him the longest tenured driver in the team's relatively short history. And that would come about because right after the season ended in London a couple of weeks ago, Sam Bird, who has been with Jaguar for 3 years, announced he's moving to another team for 2024. Leaves after getting the team 2 wins and 7 podium finishes, and the season just ended. Reportedly, McLaren has some interest, but he hasn't signed yet. Another driver leaving his team is Robin Freins. Freins has been fired from ABT Cooper Racing. Okay, why? ABT took the 2022 season off as a team owner when Audi left the series and then joined up with Cooper and came back for this year, but the team finished last in the team standings. There's your why. Team principal Thomas Biermeyer said, quote, Robin will be leaving us. His plans for the future don't quite match ours. You'll have to ask him where he's headed. ABT officials then confirmed the news formally post-race, said, quote, after an open discussion, ABT and Freins have agreed to terminate the contract so he can concentrate on his future tasks. What is his task, you might ask? Well, he becomes a free agent after scoring points in only 2 races, worth only 6 points, but he actually missed 4 races. He was outscored, I should say, by his teammate Nico Moeller. Moeller racked up 15 points in a disappointing year overall. Well, silly season rumors initially had Freins going back to his old team, Envision, and that is exactly what happened. He's going to go back to the past, basically, for the future. Robin Freins raced for Envision for 4 years before he left to join ABT Cooper for 2023, and after one miserable year away, where, again, only scored points in 2 races, he's back. He'll join with fellow and veteran Formula E driver Sebastian Buemi. Take a charge at driver and team titles in 2024. That's going to be a strong combination if Envision can bring them the cars. Meanwhile, other rumors. Sam Bird, his place could be taken by Nick Cassidy. A lot of things that seem to be linking Nick Cassidy to Jaguar to take Bird's place. It's interesting, though, that there aren't any rumors about Bird right now. It also appears that Avalanche Andretti is about to part ways with Andre Lauderer. Lauderer said he has just not gotten the hang of that Gen 3 car. Avalanche Andretti's other driver is set. That's Jake Dennis. In case you missed the beginning of the show last week, Jake Dennis is your 2023 season champion, so he's not going anywhere. As for the seat that Lauderer likely will be vacating, Dan Ticktum asked about that seat earlier this year. But right now, rumors seem to have Felipe Dragovich as having the inside line on taking that seat after his performance earlier this year in the rookie test in that car. Jaguar TCS Racing, the British-based team that they are, they're going to go with a driver lineup from 2024 that hails from New Zealand. Mitch Evans is returning to the team next year. He'll be joined by, oh, that's right, Nick Cassidy ain't going to Jaguar. Is going to Jaguar. He's going to take that seat, moves over after claiming, again, second place in the driver's points that the season just ended with Envision. It's amazing that you would leave a team where you placed second in the standings and go to Jaguar, but hey, he likes it over there, so that's where he's going. With that duo, Jaguar has now Evans and Cassidy combined just this past, or in their career. They've got 15 wins, 37 podiums, 11 pole positions, and between the two of them have racked up 1,076 championship points.
Go Kiwis.
So Jaguar, build him a good car. You might actually get some wins and maybe a title. We'll keep you updated on the silly season things going on over there because I can pretty much guarantee you it ain't done yet. Musical chairs will continue. To the Xfinity Series here, where we noted during the recap on the win last Saturday by John Hunter Nemechek in Michigan. It was a milestone win for Joe Gibbs Racing. It was win number 200 in Xfinity Series competition. A fairly rapid rise in the number of wins. They only started racing in the Xfinity Series as a part-time team in the series, entering select races back as far as 1997. But in their entire time, they've won 200 races in 802 combined starts. It's not a bad track record. You win one basically in every 4 races. Some people would say they're sick of it. Hey, You got to recognize quality when you get her. Xfinity Series playoff clinching scenarios. We talked about the Cup Series earlier on in the show. Well, here's the Xfinity side of things. Justin Allgaier, who with a win is all but in. With his second win, he guarantees that slot. It would also be guaranteed if John Hunter Nemechek, Austin Hill, Cole Custer, Sam Mayer, Chandler Smith, or Sammy Smith would claim a win. Otherwise, he just needs to rack up 36 points. Probably not all that hard to do for Justin Allgaier, who is quite accomplished at road course racing. As for Sam Mayer, Chandler, and Sammy Smith, along with Jeb Burton, they would all be locked in if they could claim a second win as well. There's still enough room in there basically to be knocked out by other drivers who could walk in and get a win and accrue enough points, in other words. Now, Cole Custer has 2 wins, so he's into the 2023 playoffs. But his crew chief got the team into a bit of trouble last weekend in Michigan. The front splitter of the 00 car was confiscated during pre-race inspection. That's never a good thing. Afterward, NASCAR hit crew chief Jonathan Toney with a $25,000 fine. Custer's been docked 20 championship and 5 playoff points. Stewart-Haas Racing docked 20 owner points as well. NASCAR didn't state exactly what they found, but they did cite sections 14.4.3.c and h of the Xfinity Series rulebook, which states in part, quote, except as specified, splitters must be used exactly as supplied from the manufacturer. Section H goes on to state, quote, rounding of any edges of the splitter will not be permitted.
I have a question.
I might have an answer.
All these fines and everything that NASCAR imposes, does the actual person they fine pay that fine?
Generally, no. The team does.
The team pays it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all that money gets doled out later in prize money. Let's see. We talked about Martin Truex Jr. being back with Joe Gibbs Racing in 2024. He got to talking about his brother when he was talking about his contract extension, talking about Ryan Truex. Ryan has been part-time in NASCAR for a few years now. Martin noted that Ryan will be racing at least on a part-time basis in 2024, leading a whole lot of people to believe that's going to happen with Joe Gibbs Racing as well. How did we get that far? Well, listen to what Martin exactly said. Quote, yeah, we've got races for Ryan again next year. Who's we? Seems to lead to Joe Gibbs Racing, doesn't it? He continued on, hopefully more. We're looking for sponsorship to do a full year if possible. That is on the table. He will be running part-time, but obviously it would be great if we could get him a full-time deal. So anyone out there looking for a good driver, he does a good job on social media too. Ryan's got 6 starts for Joe Gibbs Racing this year, and he does have a win. He claimed the win at Dover. So if they can get the sponsorship. And here's the thing. I'm not so certain that it's just relying on sponsorship. Joe Gibbs Racing is, I wouldn't say ridiculously flush with money, but they're not close to going bankrupt either. Maybe they just give him the ride. Wouldn't that be a deal? A driver that was supposed to drive in Indy later today is not.
No.
For kind of a strange reason, too. Catherine Legg had been signed to run a 4-race deal a few weeks ago to drive the 07 car for SS Greenlight Racing. She pulled out of this weekend's race due to, of all things, the ongoing Hollywood writers' strike. Yeah. Her agent, Clint Briney, released a statement that read this, quote, due to the unforeseen and ongoing writer's strike, which continues to affect our entertainment industry partners, there's a sponsorship tie-in to this. Quote, the associated promotional plans for Catherine Legg's sponsorship to compete in the Xfinity Series have been temporarily suspended. As such, we're working to shift Catherine's upcoming NASCAR race participation. We will have more details as they become available. In the meantime, Colin Garrett gets the start in the SS Greenlight Racing 07. And one more bit of good news here before we go to break. You might remember back in the spring at Talladega, Jordan Anderson got involved in a big crash where his car caught on fire. Since then, Anderson has not been behind the wheel, but that's about to change. Anderson has said he will finally get back in a race car. It'll be August 25th at Daytona. So of all things, he's going to go back to Talladega's sister track. Hey, get back on the horse, man. He'll also have a special crew chief. You might have heard of him. His father-in-law, the guy that's also known as former Daytona 500 winning crew chief, currently works for Fox Sports, Larry McReynolds. It's not a bad guy to have in your ear. Good luck, Jordan. Congratulations and welcome back. Got some pictures here as we talk Craftsman Truck Series news when we come back. Stay close. Final segment of CRN is next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Got some pictures here for you as we turn our attention to the Craftsman Truck Series. We start off with a pretty good-looking truck from GMS Racing with driver Daniel Dye last night. They honored a racing legend with a special paint scheme that called out 1983 USAC national champion Gary Bettenhausen. And his sponsorship from Bettenhausen Automotive uses the slogan, Chicago's best dealership. Bettenhausen ran the Indy 500 some 21 times between 1968 and 1993. His best finish came in 1980 when he claimed third place, thanks to GMS Racing for the pic of the truck that you saw on CRN Live on YouTube right now. It was a good-looking truck. Unfortunately, it just wasn't that competitive last night, so you didn't get to see a whole lot of it. Wish we could have seen more of it on television. With the news that the Cup Series lineup at Front Row Motorsports is set, the question now surrounds Zane Smith, who is a Front Row Motorsports driver in the Craftsman Truck Series. He reportedly is exploring his options, one of which is potentially a return to the Front Row Motorsports Craftsman Truck Series entry, but he says he would be willing to move for the right opportunity. Now, Zane Smith has gotten a lot of press, and Zane Smith is a good kid. He's a good driver. Might be a little rough around the edges, but it won't take much to smooth out those rough edges. Don't just take a Cup Series ride for taking a Cup Series ride there. That's what I'm saying to you, Zane. Just because it's offered to you doesn't mean you have to take it. Get the right ride, one that proves your talent. Because if you get into a 25th place car, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. The most you're ever going to make out of a 25th place car might be 23rd, maybe 20th, but you're never going to win in a 25th place car no matter how much talent you've got. So take your time. Do it right. Young's Motorsports has announced they're going to put Greg Van Alst in their number 20 Silverado for the remainder of the 2023 season. That was effective as of last night. Van Alst is bringing a sponsor along with him as well that you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube. As a native of Anderson, Indiana, he's bringing CB Fabricating, based in the same city, to come along for the ride for at least 5 of those 7 remaining races, and that counts last night. Van Alst, though, is kind of up there in age when it comes to getting his real chance now. He's 42. He's got 36 ARCA Menard starts to his credit, including a win at Daytona, 3 top 5, 17 top 10 finishes, and a part-time role. He also has 2 Xfinity Series starts to his credit, but those came back in 2019 at Atlanta and New Hampshire, both of those with Alpha Prime Racing. Thanks to Young's Motorsports for the picture of that truck that you'll see more of throughout the end of the year. So really, it comes down to this. For Young's Motorsports and for Greg Van Alst. Are you in on this or are you not? Now's the time. Fish or cut bait, dude. Got to do it now, or you don't do it. Another new sponsor for the Truck Series is a company called Precision Garage Door Repair. They're joining the 32 of Brett Holmes. You can see that truck, which also ran last night on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Brett Holmes Racing. Sponsor is signed on to BHR, the roster of sponsors for IRP, Milwaukee, and Kansas. So that's the look that you're going to see. Pretty good looking truck. Matt equated it last year to the old Holiday Inn sponsorship. I can see that. As for the others, I think they're going to be a secondary sponsor. But yeah, congratulations to them. They continue to build on their roster of sponsors, and I think they continue to build on it. What we saw last night out of the 32 truck, I mean, qualified 32nd, dropped all the way back to last at one point in time. Some through attrition and some through working on the truck throughout the course of the race. They were able to finish in the, I forget whether it was 25th or 26th. But they were able to improve on the truck, and that shows that they are able to do that. But I'm hoping to see more out of the 32 team between now and the end of the year. Superstar Racing Experience this Thursday. Got another SRX debut set to take place. It'll be in the Season 3 finale. Jonathan Davenport's going to join in on the fun. Now, who is Jonathan Davenport, you might ask, considering the fact that other than Ron Capps last Thursday, it's been all effectively IndyCar and NASCAR drivers. Well, Jonathan Davenport is a 3-time Lucas Oil late model Dirt Series national champion. He's based out of next door in Georgia, Blairsville. For those of you that don't know, our home is Alabama here at CRN. He's claimed 5 World 100 wins, and Davenport said of this opportunity, quote, "It's pretty exciting to get a call from SRX inviting me to race with some of the best drivers in the country from such different racing backgrounds on dirt at Lucas Oil Speedway next week." As you can see, that car right there will be number 49 with Nutrien Ag sponsoring it Thursday. You can see the car on CRN Live, courtesy of JonathanDavenportRacing.com. It's a good-looking car. You even said so, John. You took a look at it and went, I like that.
Yeah.
What do you like about it? Color? What?
Just the way it's set up.
Yeah. It's a good look. No doubt about it. To IndyCar here, and this will wrap up our news for the week here. I'm sorry, we got the NHRA. I got to do NHRA first. Then I'll do IndyCar. Okay? Tony Stewart Racing. Man, there's a lot of Tony Stewart in here because the SRX is all about Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart Racing has a new partner for the remainder of the 2023 season. They have signed a group called American Rebel. The company's going to be highlighted on Matt Hagan's Funny Car this weekend. You'll see a picture of it on CRN Live on YouTube here in a moment. They're known for building residential sales and safes and ammo lockers for firearms owners. They offer about half a dozen sizes, and they can be specially designed to meet the owner's specific needs. They're also going to be primary on Hagan's ride at the NHRA Midwest Nationals on October the 1st. And this, by the way, is going to be a multi-year deal. That's a pretty good-looking car right there. No word on whether or not they might expand over to the Top Fuel ride. We'll find out.
I like that car better.
Yeah, I like the color combination a little better. And I don't mean any disrespect, and I understand, Brett Holmes Racing. And I'm rooting for Brett Holmes. We've had him on the show many, many times. Something about me and green on a car. I don't know what it is. I've never particularly cared for green on a car. And I know that this is odd. And I'll explain that, because when I became a fan of racing way, way back when, I became a fan of Darrell Waltrip. And Darrell Waltrip, at the time that I became a fan, was sponsored by Gatorade. a green car.
Yep.
And then he moved to Junior Johnson Racing, and he became sponsored by Mountain Dew. A green car.
Could that be a green car?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Why I'm so set against the idea that green cars look good, I don't know. I've never particularly cared for it, though. Again, if you like a green car, knock yourself out. Me, probably not going to drive one. I'm certainly not going to buy one. If you hand me one in a rental car, I might ask, can I have another one? Again, I can't explain it. I wish I could. I don't have an explanation for it. And for our friend in West Virginia who catches the show quite often, he's big into green cars. He loved...
What was it, a Duster? Is that what he had?
Yeah, he had a Demon Duster, and he's a dirt track racer himself up in the area of the Panhandle, way over western Maryland. And he would have what Mopar, he's a big Mopar guy. So instead of green, they call it limelight.
Mm-hmm.
And he would paint his cars. He had, let me think. There are two that I know of that he called Track Lizard.
Track Lizard.
Yeah, Track Lizard 1 and Track Lizard 2.
Yeah, lizard.
One was either a Dodge Aspen or a Plymouth Volare 2-door, and the other was a Dodge Daytona from the 80s. Track Lizard 1, Track Lizard 2. And
I remember the Daytona.
Both had that limelight color on it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for what it was a good-looking car. Don't get me wrong. It's just, me personally... Now, that said, if I were to get a sponsor that was green, I'd be more than happy to drive your green car. Just saying.
I'll talk to Mountain Dew.
Please do. Let's turn our attention over to IndyCar. Linus Lundqvist apparently very impressed the leadership of Meyer Shank Racing, enough that they are going to give him a second chance behind the wheel. Lundqvist qualified the 60 car in the top 12 last weekend at Nashville, got caught up in an early crash race but couldn't continue, but they liked what they saw up until then. And with Simon Pagenaud continuing to deal with the after effects of his scary crash in the Mid-Ohio race way back almost really 2 months ago now, Lundqvist going to get the 60 car again this weekend in IndyCar as he will lead off the doubleheader day on that road course. So go get it, Linus. Hope you have a great, great race if they get it in. Weather is an issue over there to the point where we've already talked about whether or not the Xfinity qualifying is going to get rained out. Time will tell. IndyCar officials have announced that no less than 3 cars will suffer post-qualifying grid spot penalties before kicking off today's IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader day on the road course. You got the 06 of Elio Castroneves, the 18 of David Malukas, and the 30 of Jack Harvey, all in violation of the same rule. Noted in IndyCar's rule book as Rule 16.2.3.2, which includes these words, quote, a fifth or more engine does not earn engine manufacturer points and will be considered an unapproved engine changeout unless, of course, you serve the penalty. What's the penalty? They each have to drop 6 spots from where they qualified. So if you qualified on the pole, you start 7th. If you qualified 20th, you start tail end of the field. If you qualified 25th, you start at the tail end of the field and then take the other 5 spots next time. It does carry over. Frontstretch.com reporting that Elio Castroneves, probably not because of the 6-spot penalty, by the way, is set to retire from full-time IndyCar racing at the end of this year, but he is set to stay on with Meyer Shank Racing as a minority partner. Okay, so he's becoming part team owner and will get to drive specific races, notably the 2024 Indy 500, because he's still seeking that record-breaking 5th Indy 500 win. He's one of 4 drivers with 4. As of now, Castroneves has a resume that includes 25 wins in IndyCar, 4 of those as noted in the Indy 500. And while he was never an IndyCar champion, he finished second in the final points 4 times and was pretty consistently from about 2001 to about 2015 or so, consistently top 5, if not top 10 in final season points. So at the same time, knowing that Castroneves' seat appears to be empty for the majority of 2024, who's going to fill it? Meyer Shank Racing is turning to a road racer. At least he's been a road racer the last couple of years. Tom Blomqvist. Blomqvist made his IndyCar debut at the Toronto Street Course race earlier this year, had his race end early when he got into a multi-car crash not of his own doing. He finished 25th. Blomqvist has been running IMSA mostly the past few years, but he does have single-seater open-wheel experience. He's raced in Formula 3. He's got a couple of starts in Formula E. He also finished second in the 2021 World Endurance Championship standings, including getting a nice run at the 24 Hours Le Mans that year. So he is a well-rounded racer. We'll have to see whether or not that proves to be the case when he comes over to IndyCar. Meyer-Shank Racing promises that they're working on a second full-time entry next year as well. They hope to have an announcement on that soon. That's where we go back to what we were talking about earlier. When I had Matt, and yeah, I kind of put him on the spot when I did it, give me the number of full-time entries for each of these series, we noted IndyCar has 27. There's room for more.
Then why don't they acquiesce and bring in Cadillac?
Well, that's another story. That's for Formula One to decide. For IndyCar, the biggest problem for IndyCar right now is how many pit stalls you have at specific tracks. Indianapolis Motor Speedway is not a problem. Indianapolis Motor Speedway could carry the Cup Series in the first years of the Brickyard 400 back when they were still running 43 entrants. So the Indianapolis is not a problem. Other tracks, pit road won't be a problem. But there are some tracks that were specifically brought into IndyCar at a time when we were talking about 22, 23, 24, not even 25 full-time entries. So they didn't have enough pit stalls to be able to cover that many cars. But if there's anything that IndyCar knows how to do, especially under Roger Penske now, and I say this very, very pointedly, with all due respect to the longtime owners of the IndyCar series, the Holman George family, who did a great job of keeping that thing going from basically World War II all the way up until just a few years ago. They didn't really look ahead. Roger Penske, it doesn't matter how old he is. Roger Penske himself and the team that he's got around him at Team Penske and at Penske Entertainment have the unique and very, very prescient ability to see things that are coming and anticipate what is to come. And if anybody's going to be able to work with all these different race promoters and all of these different track operators to be able to ensure that we've got enough pit stalls to cover 28 or more full-time cars, now's the time to make that happen. So no, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Meyer-Shank Racing go to a second car and maybe see another team or two add another car or two as we go through the course of time. It'd be pretty cool. To everyone who's been checking us out on CRN Live on YouTube, thank you very much. If you haven't, please do. And subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. What's free nowadays? Not much anymore. And for those of you that have subscribed, please tell a friend. And then tell your neighbors. And tell your neighbors' friends. And tell your friends' neighbors. We like that. And we'll be back again next week. And I think that we're all going to be in full form for the entire 2 hours. Thank you again to everybody checking us out. Do it again next week. Check us out on all the social medias, where we don't play around with rumors and like weird memes that get us in trouble. We just post stuff. And don't forget about our website. John's working on an update on our website, which may have gotten a warning at some point in time when it came to getting on to crnradio.us. John's working on that fix, and it won't take much. We'll get it taken care of. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you again next week. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy the racing. We'll talk about it all again next week right here on the one, the only Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.